Okay guys, today we're going to try a nice little watercolour scene in acrylics, believe it or not. Now let's go. What are we going to do here? I'm thinking we're going to do a nice blue background, and as I always like to say, we need to reverse engineer our paintings. So I like to do everything from the back and bring it forward. So you should have the photo up by now on what I'm going to paint, and I'm going to bring that blue sky down through the centre. And then I'm going to bring those buildings each side with that awesome little quaint bridge in the middle there. Not sure if I'm going to include the little boat there or the gondola, as I should say. Okay, so I've already got my cerulean blue, and it is looking a little blue. I really need to dull that down, or let's say lighten that out with some nice white paint. So we'll get into that. I do have some tinting white back in my studio when I'm home, but for now I'm just going to use some Montmartre's titanium white, and that should pretty much do the trick. Always keep your paints separate till you mix. So you'll see that I'll mix that blue in the center here in a minute, but a lot of times we'll put our paint directly onto the other color. We don't want that, because it makes it so hard, and you'll end up wasting so much paint trying to get it to the pigment that you desire. And what I'm going to do is just gradually bring that blue over to my white, and may have even gone a little bit too much straight away. That's why you really only want to dip the very tip of your palette knife, or your plastic spatula in this case, into the colour. So now I'm going to have to do another dab of white, because that is still, tell you what, we're not far off. It's not really the colour that I'm after though. It might look different on the page, which I'm using 180 GSM by the way. I did consider a little bit of this cheap Anko, it's just called pastel blue, for the background, but I thought, no, I'll stick to my traditional colours. That way everyone's pretty much got that palette. So look, I am going to try a little bit of that cyan. What I might do is just grab a little bit of that, just for interest's sake, mix it in, just to see if I can get a little bit more depth to that blue, and then I'm going to, once I'm happy with that hue, I'm going to bring that right down with that titanium white that you seen me put on there earlier. All right, we will get to some painting very shortly, don't worry. And also with this painting, I'm not sure whether I'm going to make it a mixed media painting at this stage, whether I'm going to try and do all those little darker areas with a pen, and really, I mean, I don't think I'm going to go that complicated, as you can see with my reference there, which is a brilliant reference. AI again, just used a bit of AI with that one. All right, I'm just going to just grab the tiniest bit, and I'm going to have to put a fair bit more white on there, but that's looking a lot better. Okay, so let's see if we can get this painting to look anything like a watercolor. With your paintings, always err on the side of caution. Make sure that you do your lightest colors first, and then you can add more pigment if you need it darker. But it's just gently and softly as you're mixing these colors and putting them onto the canvas or the paper in this case. But you really don't want to, you know, be stuck with a whole heap of paint that you're going to have to use 2 litres of white to be able to bring it back to the color you want. And also the other side of that is, when you're putting it onto your page, you also want to make sure that it's not too dark from the get-go. That way you don't have to go wait till it dries and then paint over it a lighter hue or a lighter color. Hue's probably not the right word. As you can see, I'm not classically trained, just self-taught. So if I get some of the terms wrong, I do apologize if I happen to have any educated artists taking the time to taking their precious time to come and watch a lowly acrylic artist like myself. Well, when I say acrylic artists, look, I do like acrylics because they're water washable. You know, I mean, let's face it, oils have the rep, don't they? They've got reputation. You know, oh, that's an oil. Oh, that's an oil. Oh, fancy. But I really like the fact that they're not toxic. The kids can get it on their hands. It's not going to take 10 weeks for it to wear off. It's not going to take me 6 months to be able to get rid of my painting because I have to wait for all the solubles in the oil to completely dry and all those sorts of things. Oils are fantastic. They are fantastic, but they've got a few drawbacks themselves as opposed to the acrylics. Acrylics dry too fast, but now I've come to embrace that. When I first started going from oils to acrylics, my wife used to hear me yelling from my little makeshift studio, which was just the third bedroom in the house. I hate acrylics. So anyway, as you can see, I do keep myself amused. As you can see, I've got that blue. I'm just very gradually adding a little bit more pigment as we go down, and I'm just going to paint right through the center here. I'll add those clouds, don't worry, I will add those clouds in. And I might even just, I mean, they're going to be painted over later, but I might even just go nice and wide here with that. And that blue is, I can afford to put a little bit more of that blue on there. It wasn't too bad, the first initial mix. I've just got myself a nice 20mm, maybe even 25mm brush here to get all that. I'll just add just the most tiniest little bit more of that cyan blue there, just to give it a little bit more depth. Nice, look at that. I'm just going to add the tiniest little bit of water, let that spread a little better. As you know, this is where I like canvas, because canvas seems to it's not phased by using water, whereas, as you know, paper and water do not mix. Jumping here real quick, unless you're using watercolor paper, of course. I'm excited to see if this turns out. I really am. Hopefully it's not a painting I have to bin. Not that I've ever binned any of my paintings. Paintings to me are like an extension of my soul, or some sort of part of me. I remember when I was little, I did a Santa Claus and it was only, I reckon I was kindergarten preppy. Anyway, I remember thinking I have to be a big boy because Christmas had come and gone, and Santa Claus that I'd made at school, which I absolutely loved, bit of a creation, was still up on the wall. So I thought, I've got to be a big boy now, and I've got to move on. Christmas is over. So I tore it down, and I tell you what, I just broke my heart as a little probably 5 or 6 year old, maybe, just broke my heart. And I realised then, even at that young age, just how much art and my own little creations were an extension of me, even back then. And even then I thought, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to tear down or rip down any of my art. All right, now I'm just going to try and put those clouds that are in the center there in while that paint's a little wet. So try a little wet on wet here. I will go back and tweak them because they'll dry quite clear. I'm just going to see if I can just, do them in such a way that they look like they're in the background. But like I said, I will possibly go and retweak all this. Now I can do a wash if I really wanted to, and it wasn't canvas. I could add a lot more water And I know a lot of people say, oh, you don't add too much water to acrylics because you break down the consistency. And yeah, that might be true, but I tell you what, I've never had a painting come back to me where people have said, yeah, that wash has worn off. And if it's such a big deal, check out watercolor. Someone please explain to me how that's any more breaking down the consistency of the paint. I know it must be designed in such a way that it does actually handle all that sort of thing. Now, you probably can't even see this on the camera, but I am actually adding a little bit more as we go along. A little bit of a line there. Right, I'm quite happy with that. Again, remember, I said always have 2 containers of water. One for your finer work that you don't want to contaminate with any colour, and one that gets the bulk of your paint off your brush, I should say. And then I just like to wipe it off on my little chucks cloth there. And then look how strong. Don't know my own strength. I've just pulled the whole lid off. Just shows you how cheap my materials are. So you don't have to be an expensive artist and buy all the latest horsehair or pig bristle brushes. You can just go and buy these cheap little ones from Kmart and wherever I got this one from. But anyway, give it a little twist and she's back on. Okay, Benny boy, what are we doing? All right, I reckon I'm just going to loosely throw these in and see if I can make this look like the reference at all. I've got some beautiful olive green here that I love, and this is the Italia brand, a little bit more of expensive, but brand that one. But when you really need to break out into, let's say, special or specified colours, you do need to go the more expensive brands. Italia's not bad. I don't mind them. This paint does separate a little, which is a bit annoying if you've left it for a little while. And sometimes you're just squeezing out a lot of clear, which is not ideal. But for these little studies and tutorials, I don't mind just going the Montmartres and some of the cheaper stuff. And that way it does really drive home the fact that you can learn how to paint without breaking the bank. All right, so I've got a little bit of, what did I just put on there? Oh, that was yellow ochre. Excellent. That's what I'm after. I thought it was looked a bit darker. So that's the sienna there. So as you can see, I can hardly read anything, but raw sienna, and that's my yellow ochre. So that's excellent. That was the colour I was after. So now I'm just going to loosely, very, very loosely, mix those two together. I'm going to work on that left-hand side building here. And I'll worry about putting some more darks in later. But for now, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that. I really should go and wash all that paint off, but I don't want to waste it. So I'm just going to get that very patchy sort of loose colour coming through on the left there, which I'm pretty happy with that. And I will go back later on with a detail brush and put all the little terraces and outcroppings and parts of that building that need to be there. All right, I'll go to my, let's say, I reckon that's around about a 15mm brush, flat. I'm just going to start to, now don't panic, I'm just going to start to put that building in. I've got to remember to finish my sentences because I move on to the next thing so quickly. But what I'm going to do here, don't panic if you don't get the right colour with acrylics first up. Mainly, there's an ugly stage to acrylic painting, and you've just got to virtually get let's say I'm going to come right down. That's more of an angle here, and I'm just going to paint that in very, very loosely. Probably coming out a little too far there, so I'll bring that into the other building, and that one kind of comes back out here, and then this is going to be that side, that left-hand side of the reference you can see there. Add a little bit more white in there. And I'm just getting back to my point. You want to get close to the right pigment when you start to put your paint on to the canvas or the paper. But don't panic if you don't get it right, because you can always tweak those colours later on and get it right as you progress with the painting. I can see reds. I can see definitely some of that. I would have liked to have gone some dark. Like I said, I've just got some raw sienna dark there. No, I've just put the yellow ochre back on. Dummy. Right, try that again. Get over here. Right, like I said, I can see all these different colours in there. But for now, we're just focusing on getting paint on canvas. Believe me, this will all make sense as we go along. Loving this, absolutely loving this. Right, got a bit more of that yellow, that down there. And it's really good just to get those colours blocked in, so you've got an idea as you do come back later on to your to these areas that you're going to put in more detail. You're going to know, oh, okay, I see why I've lightened that off there, because there's that shade or there's that pigment. And I'm just sort of running down here with my references, so I do have some sort of an idea now. See how I've got a little bit of white there that's come off my brush? That's okay. I'm not going to panic. I'm just going to go over that, and because it is still fairly wet, I'm just going to bring that that other colour that I've been using back down into it. I'm quite happy with that green. And what have we got here? Should be saying colours as I'm going along. Bit of sap green. Not really what I was after. I'd like a little bit of terra verde, which is just a fancy name for dark green. That's all I can say. It's probably there's another sap green. So I need some terra verde, but this will do. This will do for the sake of the... Oh, I better... Look, I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to wash that brush off. I didn't want to, but that white is deciding to stay on my brush. So I'm going to have to bite the bullet and clean the brush. All right. Now, where was I? See, I'm just laying off that water. You don't want too much water on your brush when you do go back. So I'm going to grab a little bit more of that dark green. And I'm just going to put some references in here. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Righto, that's going to have a little... What have we got? A little sort of an outcropping building, or a terrace there, or a little veranda. I don't know. What would you call that? Looks cool, whatever it is. It kind of goes straight up. There. You do want to kind of stay as loose as you can, but you also need to better have a steady hand when you need it. All right. See, I'm just building up a little bit of that background building colour. Add a little bit of that white. I've got some wider areas in around there. I can see down the bottom. And like I said, because it's still relatively wet, it will pick up. Oh, that looks good. That looks good. I'm going to add a little bit more darker green. Would have liked to have, you know what, I might just go that straight olive. I don't want to waste this olive green because it's quite expensive and it's my good stuff. I'm doing a big set of boxing gloves, golden boxing gloves at the moment, for an actual painting. So one of my own that I will put on YouTube, but it's going to be quite advanced, that one. It's a little bit different than the sort of for the beginner painter. And I must admit it is coming out quite nice. Also, I've got a couple of other ones, really detailed paintings of some flowers and things like that, which I will also put on YouTube. But you know, they probably won't get many views because they're more advanced, so they don't seem to. Once you get niched with YouTube, it's kind of hard to break out of those particular niches. All right, see, I'm just using that kind of part of the brush. the flat. Got some nice crisp edges in here, a bit more shadow in there. That's just that straight olive green, and I probably will mix, I probably should be mixing a little bit of that raw umber into the mix there, which I will, but that'll, for now, as I'm saying, I'm just getting that block in process, but I will just have a little bit of raw umber there, which is Joe Sonia's here, raw umber. I brought some up because remember I had the raw sienna, which is great too, good for animals and things, but I just like the depth of the raw umber myself. Yeah, what have we got here? I've got a little bit of a, so I've got that little building up there, which I could probably take a little higher here. So I'll put more shadows in as I'm going along. Got a window over here, kind of looks like it. So I'll see if I can, that's still pretty wet in that section there, but I'll see if I can possibly bring that down. And another window here. Another one there. And because it is only, like I'm only using this as a reference, I do want to kind of keep as close as I can to the reference for symmetry's sake. But you'll be surprised that once I start putting some highlights in and some other things, just how these little windows and other things can really start to stand out. So we're around about here. I'm just going to, sorry for my arm in the way there, but I'm just going to try and get some lines coming in here. As I'm sort of filling these out, I'm just kind of getting those reference points that I need. And see how I'm just using that edge of that brush, and I'm not trying to get everything perfect, but I am trying to get some sort of semblance of the building and some lines that I can use later on. Grab a little bit more of that, maybe a bit too much there. And once this dries, these colours will go even better. What I mean by that is once this dries, these colours will take to the canvas a lot better, or paper in this case. Just going to have that, for some reason, that is almost vertical, that little part of that. Up here we've got another steeple or outcropping a building, and we've kind of got a little bit of a line in here. There we go, and down here. G'day guys, I'm just going to jump in here real quick. The reference of my tablet had actually expanded, so I'm a little bit skew-whiff here with my composition, but I will fix that up as we go along. Getting this looking like some sort of a building. Believe it or not, I'm not, that's the thing I love about it. We can just make it look like a watercolour. Hopefully I can. I'll probably have these a little more of a gap in here. Bit more of a bridge by the looks of it, but I've got that other building to come in there, another little wider sort of building. So let's see if I can just get some of that filled in, and it'll make more sense as we start to add either, like I said, I don't know if I'll go pen. I might just stick to a real detailed round brush, probably a 1 or a 2, depending on what I've got here in my little repertoire. So I'm just grabbing a little bit of that olive mix that I'd done before. I'm going to add a little bit more white here. I have to loosen up a little bit. I am starting to get a little stiff here. So bring that out. Just loosen up, Benny boy. Don't take this so seriously. Now, if I didn't have the camera going, I would be over the top of this. I would be having it on my easel, and I would be probably concentrating a lot more. But because I can't film at the same time, it's really difficult to have my head over the page. But if you're following along at home, don't feel that you have to stand back like I am. I'm only doing it for the sake of the tutorial, so my big ugly head's not in the way. And I am going to look at that beautiful looking little sort of bit of architecture there coming out. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. Rightio, Benny boy, let's see if we can't get a little bit more of this. Sorry, I am really quite mad, as you've probably already worked out if you've followed me for a little while. Rightio. See, there's a little bit of green there. I'm straying from the colours a little, because I'm not sure how I'm going to incorporate that, but that's kind of the same colour that I've got on there, that olive green. Should I do it, guys? Should I just do it? Bring that bridge across? Why not? Do it, man, just do it. All right. And it will give me a bit of a reference later on. Maybe a bit high there. I'm going to grab a little bit of that burnt umber. Now I'm saying burnt umber, whereas before I couldn't get raw umber out of my head. All right, I'm just sort of looking where that line is coming down here. That bridge is kind of around here. And look how wobbly my hand was just then. I'm going to fix all that, so don't worry. Don't feel that you've wrecked it because you've got wobbly hands like me or shaky hands. You can fix it all. You can fix it all. Oh, that didn't do the shape I wanted it to, but it's probably a good idea just to sort of, I'm going to grab a little bit more of that, bit of a window sort of thing happening down here. In there, I'm going to add this. I'm going to add white highlights, but as you can see, I'm just starting to get that side of the building in. So now that I've got that reference over here, we might just see if we can, we've got a bit of a line going. Now, I'm going to reach across the screen here, but I'm going to just cross-reference with that, with my reference photo. Virtually halfway across on the other side, on the right-hand side, is where that little terrace or veranda comes out of that beautiful old stone building in the centre there. It's virtually in the middle of the whole painting. So I'm going to just sort of work on that same scenario. Going to just try to keep the scenario, the symmetry of your reference in place. That way you're not going to guess too much, if you know what I mean. You're not going to be guessing that much, if that makes sense. All right, I'm just going to back here a little bit. I've got a bit of a veranda there. And again, guys, this isn't going to make sense right here because my roof line to that right-hand building is a lot higher as opposed to the composition. So you'll see that I do rectify that as we go along. But just so you can see the whole process, I'm going to keep it in. I've got to stick to the colours a little. Now I'm just going to start to add a little bit more of this beautiful white in here. It's coming in under there. Got that. Now I've just got that pure yellow ochre and a bit of that bluey sort of mix we had going on before. I'm just going to start to bring those colours in now. They're a little darker, so I'm going to grab a little bit of that raw sienna with that yellow ochre and just sort of, it's nice and ruddy, those colours. Add a little bit of that green to the mix. A little bit more white and green. And as you can see, that's a little too fair, like a little too sandy. So I'm just going to break that up with a little bit more of that olive greeny mix that we had going there. And the good thing about these kind of look-alike watercolors is that you don't have to be perfect with your lines and things like that. You can, because you know that's kind of what adds to the allure of the whole. It's just so romantic, if that's a word, if that's a correct word to use. It's just so. I just love them. You know, I just love the not whimsical, that carefree, but there's just something about it. You know, a well done watercolor, I should say. And I tell you what, who's mastered it is Joe Zabukvich, Aussie fella. Well, well, when I say Aussie, obviously Zabukvich doesn't sound Aussie, but he moved to Australia very young. And I tell you what, thank God he did. What a treasure. What a treasure, have that fella. Now I'm going to go with that white. So I've got that titanium white again. And I'm just going to, I kind of want this to be a nice stark white here. Again, remember that word reverse engineering? See how I'm just going to paint over these areas? This is that wider building on the right here. And I'm going to sort of take him right down. I'm excited to see where this leads, this painting. Because as you can see, I mean, hey, look, believe me, if it's no good, you won't see it. Put it that way. Oh dear, I do keep myself amused. Rightio, there's a bit of white in there where that terrace is. So that kind of comes over the top there. And kind of goes off there. Right, I have a big dab of paint there that I've got to... I'm trying to replicate a watercolor here. Again, so there's that terrace. I'm coming out a little bit, so I'm a little bit off skew width. That can actually come out a fair bit further, that roof line there, up to there, because they've kind of got that window there in the wrong place. Probably should be about here, but that's okay. I'll turn it into that tree if I can. It's in the background. I think it's a tree, or it might be another building off to the left there. So there's that little bit of a terrace. I'm going to have a little bit of a, looks like a little bit of a fence line in there, a guardrail. Right, now, got that nice white happening in here, which is kind of like the side of that building. Get that nice and white. Just to sort of equal this up a little bit. Really love how that just trails off into the, just trails off like a normal, or like a normal watercolor would into that. You don't want them wispy. You really want to keep them nice and straight. Put some darks down there. Bring them up. Bang. The windows still there. And I like to cover the whole page. I don't like to leave any blank bits of page, or especially canvas, but sorry, especially page, paper, because it will yellow over time if you decide you want to keep these paintings, and they will yellow if you don't cover the whole lot. That should look smashing once I take the, you know what? It'd be nice if I could see the whole picture. Oh. Right, that's good. I'm going to have that water coming through here, that reflection. Starting to get these buildings in place, which is good, exciting. All right, just going to, again, try to get as much of that, that titanium white down there. And cover that paper. Now that's starting to whiten up nicely. I shouldn't touch at the back here because it's probably got a little bit of that contamination from the brush, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm lazy and don't want to clean my brush. Just start to put those clouds through there a little bit. And we'll play around with those more and more as we kind of progress down the painting. Give it a bit more feel. Well, this is starting to take place, starting to take shape. Now I'll just go back to that white and start to, so we've got that little terrace there, we've got another sort of a line through there. Really want to get that, start marking out some of these lines here. So a really sharp line on that particular building there. So kind of want to get those lines as straight as I possibly can, but as you can see with the reference there, it's no biggie if you make a few mistakes. Right, I'm just going to lay that off a little bit. It's a little thick, but I do want to kind of get a little bit of this building happening here on the side here. I think part of the trick to these is you do want to have your verticals nice, you know, nicely nice verticals and things like that happening. Okay, kind of separates those buildings, doesn't it? Right, I'm going to get a little bit more of that white through here. Once I start to put these, I'm going to use that as the building. Get a little bit more creative. I might even use a bit of that blue. I know it's not in the reference, but I want a little bit of that shadow too. Just going to put a bit of a shadow coming in through here. Oh, that's the same line, so just got to make sure I keep that, just for the sake of the lines and the separation of the buildings. We will try to keep our lines fairly crisp and away from each other. So there's another, see there's another line, another level line going through here, virtually where that window is up there. So, and when I come back later to do more detail on all this, I'll have a good indication now of where these paintings should be. Or when I say paintings, windows and things. These structures, parts of the structure I should say. Get it right in a minute. So I can't talk and I can't concentrate and talk and talk at the same time. I do have to get better at that. Now, there's that line and there's that. So there's the line to the bridge. Now, if I want to keep this in symmetry's sake, I kind of need to go a lot higher, and I've come far too low with that line, which I'll probably take up just so that it kind of looks similar to the reference. Like I said, you don't want to. If the reference looks really good and you're using it, and you're loosely, even though you're loosely basing yourself off those references, you don't want to go too far. Otherwise, you'll look at the painting later on, and you'll go, "Oh, that really looks out of whack. That level should have been higher, and that bridge is far too big," and you know, you start to kick yourself because you've done probably hours of work, and then you realise you've got to do a fair few alterations. So try to keep yourself going with the references as much as you can, or as close to it as far as the important parts, like the bridge there. You know, like I've probably got it too high. Okay, so I'll jump in here real quick. I actually haven't got that bridge too high, but again, I didn't realise I'd had the expanded reference on my tablet. So what I might do is just jump forward to painting in the darker parts around that bridge, and then I will go directly to the part where I start to fix this painting right up. That's kind of got this dark happening here, taking a little bit too long now. Oh. Right, I'll grab that. Bit of that dark, we'll just bring that down. Bit there, I'll just use it on the side of the brush. There we go, got you, bring the U in. Actually, that bulkhead comes right out there, doesn't it? Bulkhead, sounds like I'm talking about ships. Right, that's there, got you there, got another. All right, while I can, I'm going to put that blue in and paint over that section and let that dry for a little bit. And this is what I was talking about with your art. Don't get so precious that you feel you've wrecked something. Just means that you just have to paint over that section, as I'm doing here, and just correct as you go along. It's not the end of the world. The sun's going to shine tomorrow. Don't throw your brushes in a tantrum. It's just more frustrating than anything because you've spent so much time and then you realise you're out of whack with your composition. But as I said earlier, everything is fixable. So just take a deep breath and just start again. So that you can just really fix things. I'm going to have to add a little bit more white into that, but don't feel like it's the end of the world if you have to, like you're seeing there. It's just a matter of just letting it dry and paint over it. Got to make sure I've got a clean brush though. Although that ruddy look doesn't really matter with a watercolor look, because that ruddy look or that sort of gritty, I don't know, what would you call it? Not whimsical, but that carefree kind of look is what we want. Still didn't. Just let that. What I'll do is I'll let that dry off a little bit more because that underpainting is trying to come through. So just fix that up a little bit. Let that come down into that a little bit more there. And I'm just going to add a little bit more of that white. Didn't obviously put enough in there. I didn't use too much because I want that to dry off. I don't want my paints to get too too dry. On my little palette knife, my little palette there. Good. Good, good, good. Bit of a different colour, so I'll bring a bit more of that blue down in here just so it does look like a little bit more, a little cohesive. All right, I think that's getting that sort of background sorted. And try and fit all of that. I want to get that window, all of that, and all of this sort of meticulous fretwork and terraces and outcroppings in place. And we will do that as we progress. Okay, we've let it dry a little bit now. I'm just going to get back into this side building. Now that I've brought that blue sky down here a little bit more from the reference, as you would have seen, I had the whole photo enlarged and I started going by that as a reference, and then I realized I brought it back to the proper size that I needed to reference the whole thing from. So I could possibly go over a little bit further, but now that that's nice and dry, I should be able to start to put these lines in. Now it's virtually a stark white down here. Actually, that's a fair bit higher. That line there goes virtually straight in line with that terrace. So I'm just going to bring that up a little bit higher. Bring that nice white straight down in here. Okay, now I'm going to try something else, guys. I should have done this beforehand. I've got my little spatula here, plastic spatula. Now I just don't want to get too much paint on there. Let's see if I can just start to get some of those lines that I could have done earlier. Just make it a little easier, a bit straighter too. So that kind of comes in on that little terrace there, on that kind of little line there, kind of angles straight down to that top corner there. There we go, nice, done. All right, I've got a very faint one up here as well, so. That'll do. And while I'm at it, I may as well come back over to these ones over here, which I'm quite happy with where they are. tiny little bit of yellow ochre on the into the mix, and I'll put that aside just to get a little bit of a border happening here on this outer white building. Okay guys, what I might do is speed it up here. For the next half an hour or so, I'm still just pretty much marking out and blocking out these areas. And as you can see, I'm just pretty much staying as close to the composition as I possibly can, but I'm not letting it rule me completely, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to try and get an exact replica, but I'm going to try and stay as close to the composition just for symmetry's sake. But what I'll do is I'll just start to speed up the process here because we are a good 50 minutes in. As I'm marking out these windows, I've got some orange, some raw sienna, and also the raw umber mixed into those mixes. The raw umber and a tiny little bit of black, but pretty much for those darker shadows, it's just straight raw umber. And that's not overpowering, and it does kind of come across as a shadow. Here I'm just using the flat of the brush, and I'm only using a 10mm, as you can see, and I'm just letting the edges of those brushes drag down vertically as we start to put these windows and other parts of the whole building in place. And as you can see for these outcroppings around the window and the masonry that comes out around the frame, I'm just using the edge of the brush, and then to highlight those areas, I'm using straight titanium white to go in around those borders that I've created with the edge of the brush and that dark raw umber. Like I said, I'm still blocking in right now, but anyway, so I can get some of these colours, got a little bit of grey happening down here off of that window, kind of like a shadow, and bring that down into that water scene. So we can hear. As you can see, a lot of these are just the edge of the brush, and it's just a matter of just scraping them onto the canvas, or the paper in this case. Okay, I thought I'd just slow it down here for a little minute because now I'm correcting that roof line. Remember, it was too high earlier on. So now I'm just using the edge of the brush with that raw umber and starting to get that roofline structure in place for that center outer building. And for that terracotta tile look that I'm about to paint in, I'm just using a little bit of orange, that raw sienna, and also the tiny little bit of yellow ochre, and just on the edge of tip of my brush there with a little bit of that raw umber. And just to highlight that chimney, I'm just using the very edge of my 10mm brush with a little raw umber. And then just switching out to my very, very fine number 2 detail brush. Now I feel that I'm cheating using my little detail brush there, whereas the watercolor masters would be able to do these pretty much these structures with one stroke of their brush and let those drips and runs create this awesome atmosphere for these particular buildings and just make the whole atmosphere just look fantastic. And if you want to see any of these masters in action, check out a show on YouTube called Color in Your Life and search for the Three Amigos. You've got Joe Zavukvich, you've got Herman Peichel, and Alvario Castanet. And those three are just characters, but they are all masters of their craft. So please do yourself a favour, if you're into watercolour and art in general, go and check them out. Colour in Your Life and the Three Amigos. Now I am starting to get carried away on the detail too quickly here. I don't like working across my work, so I like to work from left to right, being a right-hander. And the thing is with watercolour, all these sort of colours, they would pretty much be able to just put them in there, let them drip down, and they would normally blend themselves, giving that nice old rustic appearance of an old building. Whereas with acrylics, you do actually have to paint them in. I could do a wash, but I'm controlling the painting more here than I would if it was as a watercolor artist would do this in 2 seconds flat. A good one. I'm trying to incorporate a little bit more of that white in here. I haven't really got that building, that side of that facade of that building, and I can't really make it out in the picture, so I'm going to try and make it up myself. Got that window here to do, then that one's over there. It's above that terrace there, but that one's a lot higher, so I'm a little bit out there. Might paint over you for now. Now, even though I'm speeding this up, do you see how I just laid off the paint on my brush there on the 3mm MDF that I've got my composition tape to? That way, or my painting tape to. Sometimes you will overload your brush, so don't be afraid to just wipe it off on the side somewhere to be able to unload that paint, because sometimes it can go on a little thick. And just another thing, while I'm re-watching this as I'm editing, I will try not to speed things up again. I'm getting a little seasick watching the whole thing move around. I didn't realise the camera moved around so much and must follow my hand. There must be a way to lock that in, but I do apologise, and I hope no one's getting nauseous while they're trying to watch this in speed up mode. And here, just to highlight around those edges or the masonry work around the windows, I'm just using some titanium white, which really does make it pop out from the canvas of the paper. see if I can down into about his. Right, so we'll start work on this side a little bit more now. I'm just going to bring that blue sky in a little bit, bring that down, and sort of hooks around a little bit there. Okay, then I'm going to bring that there, another little line through here, and that kind of goes up there. Bit of an outcrop, bit more of a peak there, bring that down. Kind of comes out that way, definitely peaks out. And then there's another little sort of, might be a bit thick, that brush. Have I got any thinner flats? Yes, I do. Beautiful. Should have incorporated this a lot earlier, this little brush. Kind of comes in under there, nice and dark, which I might have to put a little bit of that Mars black I'm using into the mix. Not too much, but just enough of that Mars black mixed in with a little bit of that raw umber. Should give me the depth I'm hoping to create. Bring that down. Definitely comes down in there with a lot of that olive green. Down there, very nice. Move that over, and now we're going to move over to a little bit more of that so if I can incorporate that little bit of raw sienna there into the mix, and I reckon we've got a little bit on the other side of that upright there, a little bit of that in there. Should come up there. You're nice and dark too. There. And there. Bit wobbly with the old hand tonight. Coming out there, nice big drop of water there, which I might just get with a tissue if I can. All right, down to the final stages, guys. We're going to try and get this bridge in. And I think, I had a crack at it before and I wasn't really happy where it was. So as you can see, I've painted over that. And I think it kind of goes in line with that rail there and halfway, sort of at the end of that peak. So I'm not going to get this exactly right, but I'm just going to start to try and just cheat a little by getting that straight in across there. So there's the top part of our bridge. Now, I would like to just kind of cross that off, but it's not going to really work. I'm going to try and even my bridge out a little if I can. So what I'm going to do, I'll just put these in for a reference point. Say just about there somewhere and there, but I will try and curve them off later. So they weren't supposed to smudge out like they just did, unfortunately, but nothing is perfect. All right, where's my little round? So we've got our number 1 round here, number 2 round, I should say. And now I'm going to start off with a little bit of white, far too much, but it is what it is. Right, we've got those ones coming in. They're kind of like a rail coming in. So I'm going to try and see if I can make them curve a little bit more and grab a little bit more of this titanium white. And the good thing about this, none of it has to make sense. It just kind of has to trick the brain into making it think that it's a nice reflective kind of bridge going through. We'll get a nice little round. And for this bridge, I'm going to start off just using completely olive green. I'm just going to roll that around a little. Come up the top of that, and then I'll kind of bring that down. And same goes here, that top rail. Now I'm just going to incorporate a little bit, and I'll see if I can bring that over a bit more so you can see what's happening with these colours. I'm going to try a little bit more of that raw umber now, and I'll see if I can start to bring a little bit more interest or add to that line that we've already put across there, which I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to grab a little bit more of that. Let's see if I can just water that down a little. Trail that off. Now, if you really want a good line with your brush, try to just get the tip and just curve or twist your brush as you're hitting the paint. And that'll just give you a little bit of a nicer line. And I'm not 100% sure as to where that's going in, but it doesn't have to make sense. It just kind of has to trick the brain into thinking, oh, there's a nice little bridge there. Okay, there's a kind of another one that follows it, but it goes a bit deeper down here. Bring that down to there. What's happening? This just to sort of break up that darker colour And the masters let's say the masters of water paint, oh, they know how to leave a gap for their whites. Because they really can't, I don't think there's a white watercolour paint. There might be, but most of the time they just don't even bother. They just somehow leave that gap. Or those dots just seems to make it look so much more romantic, or whatever that beautiful word is, that beautiful flow they seem to get with their watercolours. Just absolutely amazing. All right, we've got a kind of a bridge looking sort of situation happening here. Once you've got your line in, it's much easier to be able to follow them. Bit of bit of a hazy sort of colour coming in through here. If I can. All right, guys. Well, look, I'm thinking that's about it. I could keep playing around with that, but I think I've tortured you long enough for getting this little mimic of a watercolor, but done in acrylics. Look, a lot more work for me. I'm not my general style, but I just wanted to show you that you can get quite a versatile look with acrylics. They can look like a watercolor. Probably could do a lot more work on that bridge, but for the sake of time and for what it is, we might just move it on now. Pull some of this tape off, eh? So we've got a nice little A4 size 180 GSM piece of paper here. Got our little artwork there. Possibly could work, I'll probably work on those clouds a little bit more, bring them down. I could probably do that now actually. Might just see if I can find some uncontaminated paint here. And I might just see if I can add a little bit more interest. Okay, well how good's that one? That looks fantastic. Yep, pretty happy with that. Like I said guys, I could keep playing around with that, but I'm pretty happy with the way that's looking, and I will sign that. So if you'd like a print of this little artwork, please let me know. Just buy me a coffee, that'll take care of the postage, and I could run let's say 10 signed copies off Just got to be a subscriber, like and share me around. And yeah, I'll give away 10 of these. Just like I said, buy me a coffee. I'll put the link in there. I think it's about $7 or $5 to buy me a coffee. That'll take care of postage if you're interested in buying one of these, or not so much buying one, I'm giving them away, but that will just take care of the postage. Just be a subscriber. And like I said, if you think that anybody might like some of these little tutorials that I'm putting out, please feel free to share me around. Thanks for watching, and you just have a fantastic week. And as I like to say, happy painting.